Today's topic is all about BCBA work-life balance. And if you want more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases.
Hi, I'm Shira.
And I'm Shayna.
We're a behavior analyst that create weekly content about how to teach kids with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier.
So here's a story I haven't talked about much. I used to own a clinic. I actually owned 3 clinics for probably, I think, a total of 11 years. And it was great when it was great. And it was really horrible when it was horrible. I had, like I said, 3 BCBA clinics. I'd hired, 25 staff who worked under me. And, I had probably about 90 individuals who, were overseen between these clinics. And, it was really fun. I had some really, really amazing staff and I had some awesome kids too. But it gets to be a lot. And sure, I ensured that, I wasn't the only BCBA at the clinic and I had lots of people who supervised, but, I wasn't smart about it. I didn't have a business manager. I took the phone calls myself. We prided ourselves in being, everything to everybody. At certain points in time, I seem to be, a personal therapist to staff, a personal therapist to parents, in there providing programming, et cetera, et cetera. And I did know my limits to a certain extent because I was able to say, okay, you BCBA, you're taking on this caseload, you're taking on this caseload, you're taking on this caseload. But as the owner, I really did oversee everybody. And as a result, it was really, I felt that pressure all the time. It was just constant pressure. I don't know how else to describe it. And, my workload was probably 80, 90 hours a week. I worked weekends, I worked evenings. I took phone calls. I finished things off in the evening, or I'd get up really early. I remember one summer I, worked for every morning I was up at 5:30, working from 5:30 to 9, just trying to get things done. And then I would jump in the shower and then I would go to work and work, all day long. And it was really, really hard. But I always had this carrot in front of my nose. And it was always, well, if I just work a bit harder, then I'll become, a little bit more successful, but this is happening. And then COVID hit. And, we basically shut down. We went from, the clinics running to nothing. And, I had to still, pay staff. I still had to, talk to parents and reassure them that things were going to be okay, coach people through, what to do with their kids. And then really just, basically just, say, okay, we've got 1 week, let's go online, let's do this and really reinvent ourselves. And it was a lot, and it was a lot of pressure. And it got to the point where, if people would even bring up autism, like people in my non-autism life, right? So my family members, people who are just trying to make conversation with me, I would really just shut down and say, if I hear that word one more time, I think I'm going to lose it. Or please, I don't want to talk about this right now. And it was really a really difficult time. And I don't really think I've talked about that much with anyone.
I'm glad that's in the past. But I think that when we talk about work-life balance, to me, what feels elusive is that there really is no such thing as a work-life balance. And I think that, I've had 3 kids who were very little. Now they're teenagers, and I've been able to work through different stages of my life and my career and my family. And what I've learned is that there's different phases in your life where you'll be able to focus on different things, and you just have to be okay with that. When my kids were really little, I wasn't career focused. I was focused on my kids. I didn't work full time. And I felt guilty about that at the time. I said, well, maybe I should work full time, or I should work more, I should work harder. And now it's a little bit different. I'm working a lot more and my kids are in school, so they don't need me as much, but I have that guilt sometimes where it says, well, I'm not fully invested in, obviously I'm fully invested in my kids, but I'm not putting as much time into it. And that's not balanced. Like I feel a lot more time goes to my career. And I think what I need to keep reminding myself is that there really isn't a balance. There's no time in my life where everything's going to be equal and like totally equally weighted. I think we just have to be okay with prioritizing what we're prioritizing at the time and not feeling guilty about the things that aren't falling in our priorities. Sometimes fitness falls differently in my priorities, or eating healthy falls differently in my priorities. And I'll focus on it for a little amount of time because it's always at the expense of something else. If I'm working out consistently, then I am not spending as much time at work or with my family. And so you're always constantly making that trade-off. And continuing to convince ourselves that this is okay. I don't need to feel guilty about investing in myself or investing in my career or about investing in my kids, because this is this phase of life for me right now. And that's the decision that I made intentionally, and not being, not falling into that illusion that everything has to be equal and balanced.
BCBA told me one time that, she has a whole bunch of balls up in the air and she's just trying not to drop the glass ones. And I thought that was a really great analogy, because at any given time, we all have a ton of balls up in the air, and it's just which ones do we choose to, focus more time on. And it's okay not to eat healthy sometimes, and it's okay not to work out, and it's okay to neglect your kids, your caseload. It's okay to do that in moderation. And, as a society, we shouldn't be made to feel guilty about what our choices are. But I think it's really important to really recognize, what we are, what those balls are that are up in the air at any given moment, and which ones we are prioritizing.
And I also think that one of the questions I get a lot from people coming into the field is, well, what's the caseload? What's the caseload? And I think that's a funny question, because your caseload is not going to define your balance, your work-life balance. It's everything else. You could have 5 families or 5 clients that's making you work, 80 hours a week, and you could have a roster of 20 and you have a great work-life balance. And so I think it's all about everything else that comes into it, what your priorities are, what your boundaries are, how much demand they're taking from you, and how you structure. Do you make sure that you have time for yourself? Do you make sure that you shut your computer at a certain time of night? Do you shut off notifications? Something that I did recently when I went traveling is, because everything's so available on our phone, and we always have FOMO that, like, if I don't get that notification right away, I'm going to miss out on something. I actually shut the notifications on my phone while I was away. I won't say it totally worked, because I just kept refreshing my email, because I was like, oh my God, they're not going to tell me if I got an email, so I have to keep checking. So it kind of backfired. But I intentionally said, okay, this is not going to be time for work. I'm going on vacation and I want to shut off the notifications. And I think that's a healthy way to, put those boundaries in place so that you're not constantly feeling overwhelmed.
Sure. I loved how you were talking about setting boundaries. And that is a huge thing that we need to do. So regardless of how many people are on our caseload, or how demanding our kids are, or how demanding our spouses are, or how demanding just life in general is, we need to say, this is what our boundaries are. So my boundaries, I tell you, I shut down most days by about 5 o'clock. And I'm up early, so I do probably work more than your 9 to 5. But on the weekends, I shut it down completely. I close my computer. I actually don't put my work email on my phone. So I can't even have that option of checking my emails or on the weekend on my phone.
And something that I think you told me very early on was, don't train people to expect a response from you on non-working hours. So I also, tend to work in the evenings or on the weekend, because I do like to catch up. But if people are getting used to getting responses from me in the evening or on the weekend, then they're going to continue to expect that. And so one of the things that I love, because I do love working in the evening, is the option to schedule your emails. So now it's also with the new iOS on Apple, but it was always available on Microsoft. I can write all my emails and batch them and schedule them to go out the next day. So that way I still feel like I'm keeping up, but people are not getting used to expecting responses, all hours of the day and night.
So can we just talk about that for a second? So right before we, started recording this podcast, Sheer and I were actually talking about, well, what are we going to say about work-life balance? Because, both of us work, and, this is how to ABA right now is not our full-time job. So we do this in addition to other things. So we are sneaking in more work on top of work. But that's kind of our reinforcer. Like, we both really love this. The other thing that's a reinforcer for me is that I like to get things done. So if I see, a student and I want to provide supervision notes, but if I say, oh, you know what, it's working day is over, it's almost the weekend, let me shut it down until Monday, I actually am stressed out all weekend long about those notes. So, sometimes recognizing your work-life balance means getting it done and finishing and accessing that reinforcer, which is finishing before you start the weekend or before you start your stop time. Does that make sense?
Something else that I've learned over the years is that when I got into the field, I wanted to fix everything for everyone. And I wanted to just constantly say, yes, 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 I could do it all. You need this, you need parent training, you need a program, you need support. I'm happy to do it all. And over the years, I've learned that it's okay to say no sometimes. So it's okay to say, I don't have the capacity for this right now. Or even with, running a center, we have a wait list right now because we have to continue to provide quality programming to the kids that we do have before taking on new clients. So really knowing that it's okay to say no personally and professionally.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we all need to get better at. And, it's something that sometimes I'll just put a sticky note right on my mirror and say, it's okay to say no. Or if I have a phone call and I know it's going to be a hard phone call, sometimes I actually will write a sticky note that just says no and stick it on my computer as I'm talking on the phone. I can look down at that and go, oh yeah, I'm allowed to say no.
And the other thing is knowing what you need, in the rest of your life. Is it speaking to your spouse to get a certain kind of support? Is it getting more babysitting for your kids? For me, it was always, I never had real help around the house, and I suffered and suffered for many years for really no reason. And finally I said, you know what, I don't have to, come home and have to then start doing all the chores in my house. I could, have somebody who helps me with that. And so it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to build in the structures to your life where you need the help. You don't have to be at every event and every birthday party and have all the right, things that everyone expects you to do or have. It's okay to say, I'm not doing this right now. I'm too tired to go to this event, or asking for help when you need it.
But on the flip side of that, think about what your priorities are and what events you do want to attend. This wasn't a personal story, but I heard the story from another professional, and she said that she realized that her work-life balance was off when, her daughter asked her to attend her basketball game. And, she was about to leave work to go to this basketball game, and then she got called into a meeting. And anyway, she ended up the basketball game in like the third quarter. And, she snuck in late and she said, oh, phew, my daughter's not going to know that I was missing and what have you. Saw the daughter after the game, and the daughter said, Mom, like, you weren't here for me. You didn't see the whole game. Would you ever have done that if it was a work meeting? Would you ever have been late to a work meeting? And that's when this person said, wow, you know what? You're right. I would have prioritized the work meeting, and I should really be prioritizing my daughter, because she's never going to be 14 again, right?
Yeah. So I think that comes down to also knowing what fills your tank. And as a person and as a professional and as a parent and as a spouse, making sure that you're doing those activities that fill you up. For me, it's not attending events and going out, and I need to know that I have my quiet time and my space. For some people, it might be going out and doing things socially and meeting up with friends. And so knowing like what fills your tank and what re-energizes you, and making sure to put those in your schedule.
I'm an extrovert, so I love being out places and doing things. So, and I also love a whole bunch of exercise. And if I don't get exercise, I get actually very antsy. And, I'm not an anxious person, but I do feel more anxious if I don't exercise. And, not everybody understands that. So for me, what fills my tank is making sure that I'm up earlier in the morning and saving time to exercise. It's like, exercise is my medicine. And, going out and seeing friends, making sure that I'm scheduling that in, once every couple of weeks.
And I think the last thing is just don't be too hard on yourself. Like I said, you go through phases where sometimes you feel really off balance, and just like recalibrate yourself and reprioritize and bring yourself back to a place where you can be okay with that. So you're not going to be able to do everything at once. Make those boundaries, stick with them, and give yourself some grace.
You bet. So, in summary, it is really easy to get burnt out in any profession. And what we really need to do is making sure that we're setting boundaries. We're setting boundaries for ourselves. We're setting boundaries for, our clients and our staff, knowing when that we can, when they can talk to us and contact us as well.
We have a free skills assessment for a BCBA download available with this video. So click the link in and around this video to get your free download.
For more information on BCBA work-life balance, click the link in and around this video or on the description to claim your free skills assessment for a BCBA download. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have any further questions.